old Nintendo gamer.
And son.
So, Nick, you haven't been playing the Switch much either.
I haven't. Before I begin, Greg's disappeared for some reason, but just wanted to say I'm actually two for two this week because I predicted that Greg would have a PS5 by the end of the year. And he was like, yes. No, I won't. Definitely not. Maybe next year. Well, guess I was right again.
We'll remind him when he comes back.
Yeah. No, you can find out later when he listens back. Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, I saw the PS4 version running.
Ooh, it's bad, isn't it? It's very bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I got this on. It was like was it Wednesday night, Thursday morning at like 2 a.m. I think it released on Steam. It took me a while to download the patch, the day one patch, because a million people were playing it at the same time on Steam, so the servers were a little bit overloaded. Had some issues with
How much was the download
Well, I
patch?
pre-installed it, and it was 55 gigabytes, and then the patch was 6 or 7 gigabytes, so it wasn't that big.
Okay for a day one patch.
That would usually take me a minute or two, but it took me about 40 minutes because I couldn't connect to the servers properly to download it. First impressions were not great, to be honest, because I had to fiddle about a lot with the settings and switch a few things off and switch a few things on and sort of get the frame rate and the resolution and the genital size correct as well. Obviously massive. But yeah, I had to play about with that a bit. So I settled on 1080p, 30 frames a second. I really wanted to do it at 60, but it looks too blurry at 900 or 720. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to go I'll go 1080 at 30 frames a second. And it's stable, no issues. It doesn't drop any frames, even with a lot of stuff going on, which I was happy about. So I chose to be a nomad because you get 3 choices at the beginning, and it's sort of the introduction to the story is going to be different depending on which path you choose. As far as I understand, there's about 45 minutes of different content depending on which one you choose. I can't remember the other 2, but I went for a nomad. Corporate, and something else as well. Yeah,
child something. I can't remember. There's I can't remember anything. Yeah.
But I would say the opening hour is pretty good. You're outside Night City. You're in the desert. You just have to do a couple of sort of, you just like point A to point B missions, do a few things here, go meet someone, talk to them, and then you obviously eventually get into Night City. And there's you meet one of the main characters. I can't remember his name. I played it on Thursday and Friday, basically, for about 5 or 6 hours. But you meet this guy, and then there's a chase as you get into the city. You start experiencing gunplay and stuff like that, and you're shooting some cars behind you which are chasing you. And then you get into your apartment, you go down and meet this guy. I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. And that's where it begins, basically. You can just keep doing missions with him, or you get calls from other people. You can basically choose what missions you do. So it's very open world, it's very much, I suppose, in the vein of GTA, where you have different missions in different locations on the map, and it's up to you which one you do. I've done a couple of side missions. Haven't really progressed the story that much, but I think for me, overall, the best thing about the game is definitely the narrative and the voice acting. It is absolutely phenomenal. All the cutscenes have been really engaging so far. The story seems to be really, really interesting. The voice acting really is superb. It's nice to have a main character that's voiced as well. It's not always the case in these types of games. And the characters, obviously, with it being everybody being modded and having all these sort of augmentations, lots of interesting and different characters. So that, I would say, so far has been the best thing. The graphics are really nice. Probably not the case on PS4 and Xbox One, but on my PC can manage it at medium to high, and it still looks good. It's not, I would say, as good as Red Dead Redemption 2 in terms of artistic vision. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 pulls off that look much better than Cyberpunk, at least at the resolution and the graphic settings that I'm playing. First person, which I was actually surprised by. I don't remember seeing whether it was third or first person, but it really works well in first person. It feels, because of that, it feels very much like a Deus Ex game. I've played the original on PC and Invisible War on the original Xbox. I played that on, and I was a big fan of the Invisible War. And this, in the sort of structure and how the game works, and the skill points you can upgrade, ability points you can upgrade yourself, it's very similar to Deus Ex in that vein. Night City feels very much alive in the same way that, when you went to Liberty City for the first time in GTA 4, when there was that jump from PS2 to PS3, it felt a lot more different. And I would say this is the same. Like, it really feels like a lived-in city. You've got loads of shops that are open. You can pick up stuff everywhere. You can talk to anybody, and they'll just throw you a line.
There seems to be a lot of people in the city as well.
There's a lot. It's very densely populated.
When I compare it to PS4, it's like PS4 is. When you look at the differences, like, it looks like there's 100 people on screen milling around on the PC version. You got a PS4, it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
but it does look an impressive, rather crowd.
It is.
Crowded
there's
city.
not many cars about, but there's definitely a lot of people. And there's always stuff going on. There's always sounds you can hear from different places and people talking and stuff, people fighting and things like that. So it's actually quite overwhelming, I would say, with what you can do. Like, all the sort of... I've got hundreds of items already in my inventory. I don't know what half of them do. I don't really know, like, what the skill points do. You're getting texts and calls all the time from different people. So it's very, very overwhelming. Which I think is actually a bit of a detriment. I would have preferred a much slower opening, I think. And while the city does look alive and feel lived in, it still suffers from that Ubisoft problem of, points on a map.
Checkpoints.
To start something, basically. To start an event or, something like that. To start a mission. So, it's not the revolution that I thought it would be, to be honest. It still very much feels like an open world video game. But the story is definitely a strong point. I think I've spent 10 hours playing Red Dead Redemption 2 now, and I've spent 6.5, I think, in Cyberpunk. And at this stage, I think I prefer Red Dead Redemption 2. Because that also has an extremely strong story, but I just feel like in Red Dead Redemption 2, I understand a little bit more about what's going on. It's not thrown too much at me in the beginning, and I feel like I'm finding my feet with Red Dead Redemption 2. I know how to work my camp. I know what I can do with my character. I know where I should go, which missions I should do, and how I should do them. Whereas in Cyberpunk, it's just there's so much information and so much thrown at you. For someone who doesn't play very many current gen sort of open world games, I'm finding it a little bit too daunting at the moment. So I think it's going to be one of those games that I'm going to take a really long time to go through it at my own pace and just try and pick it up before I push the story forward too much. But the visual style, the story, the artistics, everything that artistic about it is really fantastic. It's just the gameplay really is still, it's clunky FPS mechanics, it's clunky shooting mechanics, it's clunky driving mechanics. It's still very much a PS4, Xbox One generation experience, which is to be expected because that's, it's not a next-gen game. Like, there's no PS5 version, really. It's I think they're still developing that.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So, I'm lucky because I got it cheap before I switched my Steam store back to Europe. So it cost me like 25 quid. It wasn't... I think if I'd paid 60, I would have been a little bit disappointed, to be honest. But that's only because it's just, it's not the type of game I'm really used to playing. And every time I play one of these style games, I do think Rockstar do it the best. These types of games. Even though Red Dead Redemption 2 feels like a video game, there's just something more to it that really pushes it beyond. And GTA 4 as well, the same. Like, it is a video game, but all the GTA games always felt like something more than just a game. And Red Dead Redemption 2 does that well. In this case, in Cyberpunk's case, I don't necessarily think that's true. But I will keep going with it, obviously. And see how I get on. Like I'm enjoying it. It's not a 10 out of 10, I would say, from me so far, but it's intriguing, let's say.
Yeah, the story might grow, and you might get as you get used to the clunky controls, you might feel better.
Definitely makes me appreciate Nintendo games a whole lot more. Seriously, when I play these types of games, and just when everything in Nintendo games is always so polished, and I just feel like other companies really struggle to do that to the same level that Nintendo do, and that's, for me, is what makes them unique today in the gaming industry. Except Hyrule Warriors.
I blame Koei Tecmo for that. So the PC version is with all the bells and whistles. So they haven't got a PC5 version. They'll be basing the PC5. This is PS5 version on the PC version later on, will they? Or I don't know.
I honestly don't know. I think they'll.
I know, it's really weird.
Like, my graphics card's a couple of years old now, and there's no way I can do stuff like ray tracing. I tried to switch on adaptive resolution, and it was horrible. It just made everything super blurry. So I'm pushing it to the limit at 1080p 30, and I hope next year I'll be able to upgrade my graphics card and try and see it at least with ray tracing switched on at 1080p or in 1440p on max settings. And I do think it's probably going to be a much better experience from that point of view, but it's solid so far, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.